Hi there, and thank you for joining me for another soft-spoken reading with Sea Falcon. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I found this book at my local library, and I thought, who doesn't love a good spy story? A little bit of James Bond. It's 007, 50 Greatest Bond Cars. So as per usual, we will be flipping through, doing a little bit of reading, a little bit of rambling, talking about the movies, the technology, the cars, and reading through this lovely book. So without further ado, let's get started. We're doing 007, 50 Greatest Bond Cars, 50 legendary cars from 25 James Bond movies. Thanks so much for joining me. The introduction states that James Bond has driven some of the most exciting and iconic cars in movie history, and he has been involved in some of the greatest car chases ever filmed. Famously, many of 007's cars have been modified by Q, which fitted them with everything from machine guns to bulletproof screens, mines, lasers, and the all-too-famous ejector seat. Some of Q's cars can even turn into submarines or become invisible. Of course, Bond has driven plenty of other cars, including classics such as the Triumph Stag. These cars have also been involved in incredible chases and stunts that have left the audience breathless. Bond's enemies have also been keen to get in on the act. Goldfinger used his Rolls-Royce to smuggle gold. Scaramanga had an AMC Matador that turned into a plane, and North Korean Zhao's Jaguar was packed with as many weapons as Bond's Aston Martin. Hundreds of extraordinary vehicles have featured on screen in Bond's adventures. On the pages that follow, you will find 50 of the best, starting with the most famous Bond car of all, the Aston Martin DB5, updated for the latest Bond film, No Time to Die. Introduction, and of course we have Daniel Craig here pictured, which was a controversial choice as the first blonde Bond. I don't know what you feel about James Bond, but I like the theory that there is no James Bond. It's rather a title that passes from spy to spy, from person to person, across the years and across the continents and decades, which is why you can have everything from Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig, and you're not worried about the difference in whether they're blonde or brunette, because in a sense, they're all James Bond. You could be James Bond. Chapter 1, Driven by Bond. The famous Aston Martin DB5. The Aston Martin DB5 is easily the most famous Bond car. It has appeared in 8 films, from Goldfinger to No Time to Die, often making use of its arsenal of hidden weapons. In No Time to Die, it has been given a bit of an upgrade, and now features miniguns hidden in the headlamps that fire dozens of rounds at high speed. There's hydraulic overriders. Front and rear hydraulic overriders can be used as battering rams. And there's a tracking signal hidden behind the wing mirror. Changing number plate. There's quite a few movies that do this. I can think of maybe The Transporter, where Jason Statham also had the changing license plates. The protective shield, a bulletproof steel plate, can be raised to protect the rear window from heavy gunfire. The front windscreen and side and rear windows are also bulletproof. There's a tire slasher. Blades spin outward from the rear wheel hub, extending to 60 centimeters. But let's be honest, the part that we all think about when we think of spy cars is the all-too-famous ejector seat. Operated by a button in the top of the gear stick, this fires an enemy passenger through a section of the roof. I think perhaps a button on top of the gear stick is a little bit too accessible. Maybe it needs to be behind a panel, or at least a little lifting door so you think twice about ejecting your passenger. If it's a button just on top of the gear stick, it's a little too convenient. I might be tempted to use it more often than not. Moving on, we have from The Living Daylights in 1987, the Aston Martin V8, also equipped with bulletproof glass. Where the DB5 had been a sporting thoroughbred, the V8 was a thoroughly modern, mean machine. A 0 to 60 miles per hour time of 5.2 seconds and a top speed approaching 170 miles per hour made the V8 not only the UK's first true supercar, but also the fastest four-seater production car in the world when it was introduced in 1977. The Aston Martin was a perfect choice for Bond, and Q-branch upgrades such as hubcap lasers, concealed front missiles, bulletproof glass, and ski outriggers helped Bond and Cara Malovy escape a host of armed pursuers. 43 years after its debut, and 33 years after its first appearance in a Bond movie, the V8 returns in the 2020 movie No Time to Die. Hubcap lasers, it's so inventive. 007's DB5 tire slashers extend from the front wheel hubs. The V8's lasers are mounted on the front wheel hubcaps and are powerful enough to slice through the tires and bodywork of an enemy car in seconds. I can only imagine how much those rims would cost. The V8 is destroyed when Bond and Malovy escape from East Germany. Bond sets the auto-destruct and they complete their escape riding in a cello case. A little bit of a downgrade from the car, but I suppose depending on the cello, it could be nearly as expensive. Unfortunately, this car was also destroyed in the movie. After being chased across a frozen lake by the KGB, Bond destroys the Aston Martin, and I believe they flee to Austria. 1962, we have the Sunbeam Alpine with a 1.6-liter engine. The Series 2 engine is more powerful than its predecessors, producing 94 pounds of torque, or rather 94 pounds per foot of torque, and 3,800 RPM to the original Series 1, 89.5 pounds per feet of torque, and 3,400 RPM. In the movie, MI6 sends Bond to Jamaica to investigate the Doctor, and turns out to be interfering with American space programs. Bond is using this vehicle and is on his way to visit Miss Taro when his sunbeam is attacked by the three blind mice. Unfortunately, Miss Taro is one of Dr. No's agents and has arranged the ambush in an attempt to eliminate 007. Now that would be quite a day. I mean, aside from the attempted assassination plots, to be able to drive through the mountains above Kingston, Jamaica in a drop top like this. Boasting one of the best designed soft tops of its time, the Alpine's roof stowage is surprisingly easy and neat, lying flush with the car when down. And of course, we're familiar with its sharp styling. Now, in Diamonds Are Forever in 1971, we have a little bit of a different vehicle, the Moon Buggy. Bond has driven some unusual vehicles, but none more so than the Moon Buggy of Diamonds Are Forever, a machine based off of the real-life lunar machine with an enclosed cockpit, radar scanners, roving stability, tire traction. The original Moon Buggy is battery-powered and capable of about 11 miles per hour. Bond's buggy, in contrast, can reach a more impressive 60 miles per hour. Ah, yes. Necessary. A little faster, a little crazier, or else it's not really Bond, is it? To cope with the bulky gloves worn by astronauts, the real Moon Buggy has T-shaped controllers for steering, braking, and acceleration. Bond has no such worries, and uses the more slim joystick. Now, on Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1969, we have the Aston Martin DB5, most famous for the roads and beaches of Portugal. In terms of the bodywork, the wedge-shaped styling by Aston's designer William Townes departs from the traditional curved look of previous DB cars. It also increases the luggage space. However, if you're a spy on the run, I'm not sure luggage space is exactly a priority for you. Concealed in the glove box on the passenger side is a sniper rifle. Bond uses the rifle's eyepiece to observe Tracy DiVincenzo in danger on the beach at the film's opening. The chrome wire wheels featured on the early models, and from 1969 the DBS V8s had lightweight alloy wheels with ventilated brake discs, seen for the first time on an Aston Martin car. I think most startling, or rather most unique about this particular car is that it doesn't really have that much gear. It's genuinely just a car. No weapons, no lasers, no bulletproof this or ejector seat that. The skill lies in the sniper rifle that is concealed within the car. It's a car that perhaps a real spy might actually use. With the exception of the rifle, there's nothing to give him away. There's no headlights that turn into machine guns. It's just a surprisingly dapper, well-dressed, and charismatic man in a very nice car. Nothing to see here. Diamonds are forever again. In 1971, we had the Triumph Stag, going undercover as a diamond smuggler. Peter Franks, 007 commandeers his criminal alter ego's Triumph Stag to drive to Tiffany Case's apartment in Amsterdam. Now that's quite a way to travel to Amsterdam. Fast and powerful, the 2977cc engine is celebrated for its 115 miles per hour top speed and for a satisfying sporty growl. However, the engine is also notoriously prone to overheating and expensive failures. How unfortunate. From Russia with Love in 1963 has the Bentley 3.5 liters. Now in the movie, Bond takes Sylvia Trench to a riverside spot for a picnic in this car. Who doesn't love a riverside picnic? But in this car, extra special. The brakes on this are servo-assisted and fitted on all four wheels. Rolls-Royce had acquired them under license from another luxury car manufacturer, Hispano-Suiza. The car was silent but strong. The later Bentley 4.25 liter became known as the silent sports car because the engine was so quiet while managing the mountain terrain, the high-performance aspect for which the 3.5 Bentleys were so famous. The signature style, the Bentley spirit is exemplified by the chrome radiator grille and huge headlights. The radiator shape and badge were the only parts of the car carried over from the earlier Bentleys before Rolls-Royce took over. The book says this is dashing and dapper. Definitely a more classic age of James Bond and vehicles. The large wheelbase and long, large wheels make for a smooth ride, but its light weight also gives it nimble cornering, which is unexpected for a car that's quite hefty and quite long. The fact that something this rectangular and this stretched out can handle the mountainous terrain is really a attestation to the power of Bentley engineering, don't you think? Now, in The Man with the Golden Gun in 1974, we have the AMC Hornet. Known for its racing style, trimmed with styled wheels, fat tires, and a Go Faster stripe along the side, the Hornet X hatchback coupe has a sportier look than the standard saloon. Now, in The Man with the Golden Gun, you can see in this photo, the car is actually upside down. Bond pursues Scaramanga through the streets of Bangkok and across a river. And nobody can do car pursuits quite like Bond. In The Man with the Golden Gun, Bond commandeers a Hornet X hatchback coupe from an AMC dealership in Bangkok to pursue the bad guy through the city streets and into the countryside. To traverse a river, Bond guns the engine and accelerates up part of a fallen bridge to perform a spectacular 360-degree mid-air roll. The leap was performed in a picture-perfect single take by stunt driver Lauren "Bumps" Willard, and the Hornet's appearance in the film transformed his image from family car to 1970s stunt legend. I do wonder how many suburban dads went in or at least thought about trying something like that in the family car afterwards. I do love that the stunt driver's name is Lauren "Bumps" Willard. I'm sure they took their share of bumps, becoming the best in that industry. When you see someone who's going to be doing a death-defying stunt like that, and you see they have a nickname like Bumps, does that make you feel more at ease or less at ease? Like if it was something like Ace or The Best, I don't think I'd believe it. But if it's something like Bumps, I think it gives me a little bit more confidence that they've been there, they've done that, and they know what they're doing. Now this is a very unique vehicle in The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977. Now the Q branch appearances can be deceptive with its unique Lotus Esprit. This high-performance sports car transforms into a submarine, fully equipped with an impressive array of underwater weaponry. Audiences watching The Spy Who Loved Me are amazed when Bond drives his car off a jetty and into the sea. But what happens next is more remarkable still. The Esprit transforms into a submarine, nicknamed Wet Nelly. The Lotus is made of waterproof, lightweight fiberglass. It can dive to 100 meters and remain submerged for up to 2 hours. 007 then tests the weaponry on it in an underwater battle with Carl Stromberg's frogmen. Now, there's so many different things about the different eras of the Bond movies. Some are more gritty, some are more realistic, many are more stylized. This is more fantastical, and I can imagine the gasps when people saw it in theaters. 4 propellers, powered by an auxiliary motor in the boat, or rather in the boot, emerged from the rear bumper to provide a top speed of 7.2 knots, or approximately 13 kilometers per hour. The 2 side rudders steer the craft. Of course, being a Bond vehicle, there are mines that can be launched from a magazine underneath the hull to destroy other enemy submarines. In 1981, we have the Lotus Turbo Esprit from For Your Eyes Only. Again, unfortunately, this one was blown up in a self-destruct system in Spain, while the copper fire replacement is used by Bond to travel to the mountains of Cortina. Like the Lotus F1 racers, the Turbo Esprit has a reinforced fiberglass body mounted on a galvanized zinc backbone chassis. This protected the car from rust and reduced weight, which helped make the Turbo the fastest production car manufactured by Lotus. The Turbo Esprit was the first Bond car that was fitted by Q Branch with a self-destruct system designed to protect MI6 secrets from enemy agents. For Your Eyes Only. In 1981, the Citroën 2CV, perhaps the most surprising of 007's automobiles, a borrowed 2CV is able to get James Bond out of trouble without the aid of high-tech gadgets, thanks to his impressive driving. The car, nicknamed the Tin Snail, proves its worth in For Your Eyes Only, when 007 drives Melina Havelock's 2CV through the steep olive groves to escape Gonzalez' henchmen after Melina has killed Gonzalez at his Spanish villa. Described by its creator as 4 wheels under an umbrella, the 2CV is neither the most glamorous nor the most cutting edge of Bond's many vehicles. However, when introduced at the Paris Motor Show in 1948, the 2CV boasted an extraordinary level of technology for the time, and during 42 years of production, Citroën made very few major mechanical changes. What an incredible engineering marvel to have created something that needed minimal changes in 42 years. This Bond vehicle is perhaps a little bit more my style. The 2CV was the first low-cost car to use front-wheel drive. Pioneered by Citroën in 1934 Traction Avant, this made the 2CV easier to handle and safer than many of its contemporaries. The original model had no indicator lights. Fold-up windows allowed the driver to make hand signals without winding the window up and down. Now, that's a very unique concept. I imagine it's an incredible collector's piece to have simply for unique things like this. Now, in the age of everything from phones to cars to your house not being able to be handled or repaired by the owners and have to be taken to licensed dealers or back to the manufacturer, this is a very unique vehicle. In regards to the body panels specifically, Citroën designed the 2CV so that owners could do much of the servicing themselves. Body panels were secured by 12 bolts and could be detached easily from the chassis for repair. Now that's quite a thought. No more paying an extra $1,000 for labor just to remove the parts to get to the problem, to charge you more. Such a pity they did make it self-destruct. Now, I always think of these cars and I think of a sound. I think of them rattling and making a lot of metallic grinding noises going down the road, but it was actually quite the opposite. The 2CV was equipped with a soft suspension. The 4-wheel, fully independent suspension was light and responsive, with inboard front brakes and outboard rear brakes, and of course, removable seats. In Octopussy, in 1983, we have the Mercedes 250 SE. Here we get into more of the dramatic car chases, more explosions, more crashes, more fighting. Here we have the classic Bond jumping from the car to the train where he fights Gobinda, but cannot stop the bomb from reaching its destination. Again, a reinforced rear axle with a hydro-pneumatic compensating spring produced a smoother ride than previous Mercedes. Mercedes was one of the first automakers to fit a fuel injection system into a petrol car. The 250 SE's 6-cylinder engine had a fuel injection pump producing an impressive 160 bhp at 5,500 RPM. That is impressive. And the classic Renault 11 and A View to Kill in 1985. The Renault 11 had an ample interior space. One model even had an LCD dashboard, similar to the car in the popular 1980s TV show Knight Rider. So it was a KITT before KITT was popular. This was the 5-door model, but there was also a 3-door version available. 007 drove the TXE model, and overall there were 14 versions in this range. As Mayday parachutes off the Eiffel Tower, 007 grabs the Renault 11 and gives chase. He smashes into souvenir stands and skids down steps. Forced up a ramp, the Renault lands on top of a bus before a barrier tears the car's roof off. Stunt driver Remy Julien performed this scene on which the timing was, and I quote, terrifying, and arranged the sequence. The taxi only comes to a halt when it loses its rear end in a final collision. Stunt drivers do not get paid enough. What a phenomenal job and what a terrifying one at the same time. In Diamonds Are Forever from 1971, we have the Mustang Mach 1. In the movie, we see 007 on the trail of villains in Las Vegas who attempt to have him arrested. He drives his way out of trouble in Tiffany Case's powerful Mustang. With the Las Vegas Police Department on his tail, Bond pulls Tiffany Case's Mustang Mach 1 through its paces. In his bid to evade his pursuers, Bond uses the Mustang to jump over parked cars and even balance the car on two wheels, allowing it to slip through a narrow alleyway. The distinctive throaty roar as 007 revs up the Mach 1 gives a clue to the impressive 7-liter Ford engine beneath the bonnet. It's the Mustang's specialty, stiffened suspension, that allows Bond to turn the car on its side. Originally designed by the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which later became NASA, these air intakes are seen on racing cars. The flush inlets reduce drag and disturb airflow less than protruding scoops. Now for the competition suspension, the 1971 Mach 1 Mustang comes with tuned suspension. High-rate springs, shock and stabilizer bars make it stiffer at speed. Now here we are in a different era. Not only do we have Pierce Brosnan, not only do we have a different film style, but we also have, with GoldenEye in 1995, the introduction of the BMWs to the franchise. Now, GoldenEye is the first film in which Bond drives a BMW, and Q Branch have once again excelled by turning the sleek, retro-styled roadster into a mobile arsenal. Here we see a bit more of a return to the sci-fi aspects of the technology in the Bond films, with the BMW Z3 Roadster. Now there is a parachute braking system that they've installed, theoretically, in this car. The canopy is deployed at the rear to reduce the speed of the vehicle to a point where the wheel brakes can be used safely. It opens to a diameter of 4.5 meters and can produce a braking force of up to 5.5 tons. And of course you have your classic spy defense, the self-destruct system, as well as several Stinger missiles. Never leave home without them. In Tomorrow Never Dies, there's the BMW trend continuing with the BMW 750iL. Again, unfortunately, they crash it. In The World Is Not Enough, in 1999, there's the BMW Z8, which is Bond's third BMW. Like the 750iL, it has remote-controlled driving options and is an impressive blend of beautiful design, precision engineering, and gadgetry. Now, unique to this one is the titanium armor. All-around titanium bodywork and a standard-issued bulletproof windscreen provide protection against gunfire. Now, if you're an actual spy, I imagine you don't need that, but if you're 007, I think that's an excellent thing to have. It's slightly negated by the fact that the rest of it is open, but hey, we can suspend some disbelief. Unfortunately, this gadget-heavy BMW is destroyed by buzzsaw helicopters in Azerbaijan, leading 007 to remark, "Q is not going to like this." Probably the most expensive spy on their force. Now, in Die Another Day, 2002, we have what I think of as one of the quintessential Bond cars, the Aston Martin V12 Vanquish. Specially designed tires release 2 cm seal spikes for maximum road grip on ice, Of course, you have your armored shielding, bulletproof bodywork, and windows to protect the driver. And there's also a camouflage system, adaptive camouflage, and the ever-present Bond machine guns. In his briefing in Die Another Day, Q describes Bond's Vanquish as the ultimate in British engineering. The V12 is certainly the most cutting-edge vehicle ever devised by Q Branch. Bond can barely believe the car's unique feature, invisibility camouflage. 007 puts every piece of the state-of-the-art offensive and defensive technology through the test, while he battles Zhao, who is driving a Jaguar XKR on the ice. We have another Aston Martin DB5 in Casino Royale 2006. This was really the start of another era of James Bond. A little cross between being stylized and gritty and realistic. New Bond, new face, new look, new car. Now Bond chases Le Chiffre and his men after they kidnap Vesper. He avoids hitting Vesper, but his car turns over and crashes. Would it be a Bond film without a crash? Because of the DB5's low center of gravity, an 18-inch ramp was used for the cannon roll stunt. The car was fitted with a nitrogen cannon and hit more than 70 miles per hour, or 113 kilometers per hour. The cannon fired out of the bottom to send the car spinning. I can't imagine the amount of force that you would need in that cannon in order to launch this vehicle. Now, the unique structure of this Aston Martin uses bonded aluminum for all of its cars. Highly rigid, it improves handling and stability. Being exceptionally light, it also produces impressive acceleration. And of course, you've got the classic swan wing doors as well. Now, it's very interesting in this one, but it's not as overtly tricked out like maybe the Die Another Day car. In this one, we have a concealed tray with an automatic handgun and silencer. There's no bonnet-mounted machine guns. Perhaps it's a more civilized weapon for a more civilized age, even though that's the wrong movie. Continuing on with the Aston Martin trend, in Spectre in 2015, we have the DB10, which has returned to the classic Bond trope of the ejector seat. The eject switch on the gear stick jettisons the roof and fires the driver's seat into the air this time, instead of the passenger. Still, we have the ejector switch on the gear stick. I feel like that would be problematic. You're driving to a clandestine meeting, you drop your french fry, your hand slips, and all of a sudden you're in the stratosphere. But hey, I suppose that's why I'm not a spy. Now, there's a distinct air function on this particular Aston Martin in the movie. Deploying the air switch triggers a rapid series of events. The steering wheel retracts, the driver's parachute fastens automatically, and the eject switch under the flip cap of the gear stick is revealed. At least they do have a flip cap. That's something. But still, you're tossing your hair, you're moving your clothes, you're a little bit clumsy, and next thing you know. Now, not only are the cars iconic for James Bond himself, although he has a tendency to crash them, his allies also have very distinctive cars that are quite famous in the movie franchise. And Chapter 2 is devoted to driven by Bond's allies. Now, in You Only Live Twice in 1967, we have the Toyota 2000 GT, speed, gadgetry, and style. Bond enjoys a fitting getaway car while in the care of the Japanese Secret Service. Although 007 isn't behind the wheel, the Toyota 2000 GT still comes to his rescue. Twice. Of course, in 2002, we have the classic Ford Thunderbird. Loaded with 1950s motoring heritage, Jinx's Ford Thunderbird is nevertheless modern, sporty, and stunning, ideal for an NSA operative on a mission. At the Ice Palace party, Jinx reunites with James Bond at the ice bar. Now the trademark wraparound windscreen is set at a 64-degree angle and trimmed in chrome. The coral paint is similar to the sunset coral hue offered on the 1956 Thunderbird. And the chrome slash marks on the front panels reinterpret the 1957 model's prominent slash marks. To reduce costs, the 2003 Thunderbird shares its chassis, engine, and gearbox with an Incan LS. Now, this is a very unique part here of this vehicle. You don't see that very often. The removable hardtop features porthole windows similar to the 1956 model. The standard electric convertible fabric can be raised in 20 seconds. And I think we'll just read a few more and then we'll finish up for now. If you are interested in this, do let me know and I'd love to read some more. In Goldfinger in 1964, we have the Ford Mustang. It made its big screen debut in 1964's Goldfinger, wowing audiences even while being sliced open by the Aston Martin DB5's tire slasher. You know it's iconic when it can lose and still win. The Mercury Cougar from On Her Majesty's Secret Service in 1969. The Land Rover Lightweight in The Living Daylights, 1987. The Land Rover Lightweight was specifically designed so that it could be dropped by parachute and provides the perfect means of escape for Bond and Malovey when their plane springs a fuel leak. More Range Rover convertibles. Of course, the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 2 from A View to Kill in 1985. The Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow 2, the MGB, the Phantom 3 from Goldfinger also in 1964. The car's suspension system includes adjustable hydraulic shock absorbers, which can be controlled from the driver's seat. This means that the car can cope with the extra weight of the gold and still give a smooth ride. The Ford Fairlane from Thunderball 1965. These are definitely different eras of Bond. The Ford Country Squire in Goldfinger 1964. We've got the GP Beach Buggy for Your Eyes Only in 1981. Now, the fiberglass body in this vehicle is similar to other beach buggies, but the front and rear wings were widened to provide more coverage for the tires, while the sides extend further down, helping to prevent sand and other debris being kicked up into the buggy by the tires. The Ferrari F355 GTS from GoldenEye 1955. Large air vents keep the Ferrari's powerful engine cool. There are two major intakes on the side panels and flying buttress-style vents on the rear window struts. Also included are these beautifully sculpted undercarriages. The undertray of the F355 was revolutionary when launched. Covered in sculpted fiberglass panels, its air diffusers and venturas reduced both lift and drag, producing the kind of aerodynamics previously restricted to race cars. Of course, you have the removable roof panel and the pop-up headlights and the puncture-proof tires. The Ferrari's 18-inch tires are steel radials with high-tensile steel belts under the tread to provide puncture resistance. Fiery red and high performance. The Jaguar XKR. And I think we'll probably end there for now. But thank you so much for joining me for reading the 007 50 Greatest Bond Cars, 50 legendary cars from 25 James Bond movies. Thank you so much for watching.